Welcome, everybody, to Casting for Two, the podcast with your host, Chris. I am always that guy that I just said. Welcome, everybody, to number 169, 169 episodes strong, and still going, and there's no stopping. There's no stopping this train, this Casting for Two train. I have so many interviews. But I mean, it's December, so I should be spending it with my family. Instead, I'm releasing episodes because, I mean, you're my digital family, and I like you, and I wish you would show me some love by going to the iTunes page, Google Play Music, Stitcher, and leaving me a comment. You know, just saying, hey, I like this guy. He's all right. He's good people. I like him. Or, you know, let me know how I'm doing on Twitter or Instagram. Both are at Casting for Two. That's another way to leave me some love. Some holiday love or regular love. I don't care. Whatever you want to do. It's all up to you. But yeah, and also, you know, check out Sunday Brunch, the other podcast I do with Secret Stage Productions, and my very good friend Megan Johnson. She is amazing, and you should listen to her be amazing at secretstageproductions.com, and she's texting me right now. But first, I need to get into my guest for today. My guest is a wonderful man. He is a stuntman / actor, Mr. Alain Moussi. Alain Moussi. Sorry, Ali. But he is in the movie Kickboxer Vengeance right now, and he plays the lead role. And he is a leading man, and I had a blast talking with him. I asked him one question, and he went off, and it was wonderful. I need to have him back on, but I want you guys to listen, okay? So sit back, relax, and Chris, cue the music, please.
Hi, Chris. How's it going?
Hi, Alan. It's going well. And yourself?
Very well. Very well.
Nice. How's your morning going so far?
Hey, man, it's great. I'm actually in Hawaii right now.
Oh.
Yeah. It's really nice in Hawaii.
So it's horrible there then, I'm assuming.
You got it. It's horrible. The weather's bad.
Boo.
You know. Yeah, no, it's just the worst thing in the world, the worst place to be.
Right on. Okay, so
yeah.
I've never been to Hawaii. What are some of the things that you have been doing, or maybe you haven't done for the first time?
Oh, well, this is my first time. I'm here with my family. We're on a vacation, and no, it's like. It's even better than expected. I mean, we're in Oahu at the Aulani Resort, which is a Disney resort.
Oh, okay.
That's great. And then we went surfing. So that was the highlight of my trip in a way because I've always wanted to surf and finally got to surf. And, you know, out of all places I could have surfed, it was in Hawaii on the North Shore. So that's it's one of the meccas of surfing. So it's that was a great experience. And the whole family went. I mean, my wife went, my daughter went as well, and she loved it. So, yeah, definitely that was cool, and we went to this the Polynesian Cultural Center, which is incredible, way like more than whatever I could have expected. I mean, it's really interesting, and I learned a whole bunch of stuff, and they have a great luau and a night show, and that was really cool too. So no, it's just we're having a great time. The whole point was to come and relax. And we've done that so much, and now we're just looking for cool stuff to do at the same time, and we're finding it.
Right on. And it must be, obviously, it's a nice getaway from, because what part of Canada do you live in?
I live in Ottawa.
Oh, okay, yeah, so it's definitely a nice change of scenery for sure.
We had a snowstorm the day before that we left. So we had 25 centimeters fall on the ground. It didn't all stay, but I mean, it fell. So,
Right.
so yeah, no, definitely a great change of scenery.
Well, well, right on, right on.
Yeah.
So this is a very loose show, and I love talking to people in the entertainment industry, actors. I don't talk to very many stuntmen who
hmm
have stunt backgrounds. So when was stunt work or acting something you knew you wanted to do first?
Oh, for me, I wanted to be an action star. That
Okay.
was the whole point. As a kid, you grow up as a kid. That's what I saw on TV and in whatever movies. Like I saw Stallone and Schwarzenegger and all those guys, which to me were amazing. They were the heroes. They
Yeah.
were action stars. So that's what I wanted to be. But obviously, I mean, you don't when you see that, you don't really know what to do or what actually goes into it and how it happens. So I grew up thinking, all right, I'm gonna, maybe do a couple of independent movies. I'm gonna do some martial arts because I saw Van Damme and that was my idol at the time. So I got into martial arts. It was so cool. And then obviously somebody's gonna see me and they're gonna make me an action star, and that's
Right.
that's how it's gonna happen. That was my idea of it. And I learned that that's not the case. So then, growing up as a teenager, I try to figure out, okay, in the film industry, what do I do? How do I get into it? So in Ottawa, there's not many productions that are, that are shot. And obviously, if there's a lot of TV movies, I guess, like regularly, there's TV movies, but
Right.
very little action. So then you're like, all right, so what do I do? So I asked my mom, and we looked at, how do we become an extra? And there was extras in Ottawa, and to me, already an extra was amazing. It was like, okay, you're going to be in the movie, you're going to be somewhere in front of a camera, you're going to be doing something. So
Yeah.
already that's amazing. But I couldn't get in. It was unionized, and I just couldn't get in. So then I know life goes on. I did martial arts. I competed. I did tons of shows. And I decided I wanted to teach martial arts as a living, so I opened up a school when I was 23.
Mm-hmm.
And as I'm going through this process of opening my school, I started doing independent work with friends, and we created this web series, and we just started shooting stuff. I started, watching Jackie Chan, my stunts to figure out how to do some fight scenes and putting that together. So it was kind of a learning experience doing it on our own and producing, trying to find, okay, we need $500 for this episode. Like, where do I find $500? So
Right.
get a sponsor, gets up. And so I started funding our productions with, buying equipment and all that kind of stuff. So it was a really cool learning process. I'll tell you, it was interesting to do like guerrilla style shooting, convincing people to let us shoot in their warehouses and whatnot. And so finally, one of my good friends in Montreal, his name is Jean-François Lachapelle, and he was a world champion in karate.
Mm-hmm.
And we had known each other for 20 years. We grew up together doing the same type of shows. So he got into stunt work around the time they shot 300.
Oh, okay.
And that was around, I think, 2005, if I'm not mistaken, around that time. So he got into stunt work at that time. And finally, as soon as he told me, I was like, oh my God, JF, you gotta get me in there. Who do I talk to? What do I do? He's like, yeah, no, I don't know anybody yet. I just got into it. I'm like, all right, fine, I'll be patient. So finally, this finishes. He gets into stunt work, and again, I'm harassing him like nonstop to say, hey, what do I do? Who do I talk to? And what he kept on saying, and he was right. He's like, well, I could introduce you to these stunt coordinators. There's two, I guess maybe there was two or three main ones in Montreal at the time. He was in Montreal, but it's going to be wasted because it won't be the right time. They're not looking for anybody.
Mm.
And if I introduce you now and they're not looking for anybody, well then, they're just going to say, hey, good job, you're talented, go home.
Right.
And that's going to be it, So I'm like, all right, cool. So I kept on doing my independent stuff, kept on learning, kept on, trying to hone the craft and see what I can do. I met another friend in Ottawa who was doing, he did a lot of Hong Kong stunts, stunt study, and he went to Hong Kong, and his name is Dennis.
Mm-hmm.
And Dennis and I started doing some independent stuff together as well. And he got into a film in Toronto about a year before I did. And again, we started training together because we had that in common. And then finally, JF calls me and he says, hey, there's an opportunity. There's this film called Immortals. It's coming to Montreal, and they're looking for a whole bunch of 6-foot guys that are in shape, that can fight. So I think it's a good time to introduce you. I'm like, okay. So obviously he's told me this a few months before it happened.
Right.
I'm training like a maniac, getting in shape, doing whatever I can think of that would be relevant to this, to be get in there. And finally he did. He introduced me to Jean Frenette, who was the fight coordinator on Immortals. And Jean happened to, again, he was from the martial arts world as well. It's funny. This industry is like, it's full of people from the martial arts world. And they all get into stunts and, because that's what martial artists that want to perform do if they can. And then finally, a lot of them become stunt coordinators. So Jean, he introduces me to Jean. I get in there, and just to start training with the people that he's with. That's it. Just essentially to be allowed to come in to training sessions, and that's all. It's not all I wanted, but at the time it was a win. So he introduced me to Jean. We come in there, we get into this room, and all of a sudden, he tells everybody to sit down on the side of the mat, and he says, "Okay, Alain, guys, Alain's going to be here today. It's his first time, so he's going to do his audition." And I'm like, "Oh." what audition? so finally he's like, "Oh, just do what you do." And I'm like, "What do you mean? What do you want me to do? What do I do?" And he's like, "Anything you know." Now, if I were to ask you, Chris, tell me anything you know. Obviously, you want a context. It's relevant to this, but it's quite broad, right? So I'm like, okay, so what's impressive that I can do? So I start to anything I can think of, from acrobatics to fight skills to throws. My background was jiu-jitsu. I did a lot of throws and falls. So anything somebody could toss me and I could hit the floor and all that kind of stuff. Weapons, I grabbed the bow, a staff off the ground, and I started spinning that. And somebody had nunchucks, so I started doing stuff with that. I see a wall, so I run to the wall and I do a backflip off the wall. And I'm like, what else can I find? What else can I see? And finally it worked out. So I'm like, after 3 minutes, I'm like, okay, I'm out of ideas. So, okay, is that enough? He says, are you done? And I'm like, I guess I am. He's like, okay, perfect. Thank you very much. Let's keep on going. So I could have kept on going for 10 minutes for all he knows. And he would have let me go. So it was funny. So finally we do this training session. I learned a whole bunch of cool stuff. We started training in reactions and fight skits relevant to what Immortals is going to be. It was a sword, system. Anyways, all that kind of stuff. But at the end, what he said, he came to me and says, "Hey, thank you for coming, and you know what? You're welcome to come back next week." And I'm like, "Oh, that's a win. I got it." So I came back in. Now I started training with the team. That was the first step. Now my second step was to actually prove myself worthy of maybe getting on this movie. So I happened to be the same. I have the same physicality, or I guess the same physical stature as the hero, or the guy playing the hero, which was Henry Cavill. And Henry, so Jean, what he does as a stunt coordinator or a fight coordinator, he'll design concept fights to show the director to approve a certain style, a certain style shooting and all that kind of stuff. So we did that, and because I happened to be the same size, he used me as the hero in those videos, which were going to be seen by the director, maybe a producer, the stunt coordinator from the U.S. and all that kind of stuff. So it was going to be seen. That was really good. So finally it was seen, and the stunt coordinator is like, "Hey, who's this guy? Can we use him? Is he available?" And Jean's like, "Of course, yeah." And he's brand new though. Like, he's green. He's new. And he's like, "Yeah, but is he coachable? Does he do a good job? Does he listen?" And he's like, "Of course, yeah, he's really good." And the stunt coordinator's like, "All right, well, if there's nobody else that has his skill and that can do that we know, like, let's use him." And everybody approved and everybody agreed. So finally we get to this meeting where he's announcing everybody's going to get on this core team for the film. And he announces everybody, says, "Guys, there's 12 spots. So-and-so, so-and-so, so-and-so." So he names 11. And in the end, he doesn't name me. So I'm like, oh, okay, well, I might still work on it. You never know. I'm not on the core team, but it's cool. And he says, last but not least, to double the lead is going to be LA. And I'm like, are you kidding me right now? Number one, oh my God, like, amazing. but it's like this thing where you're my first job. I've never been on a movie set at the time. I've never been on a movie set, and all of a sudden I'm going to be the lead double in this $100 million movie by Warner Brothers, and as a first job to get into it. So it was like, Amazing, amazing, amazing. This meant I was going to be on set doing prep work for 2 months.
Yeah.
Helping, training actors, designing some of the action, or helping to design, helping the concept work. I mean, this is where you learn. You train 8 hours a day for 2 months, and that's it. That's all you do, and then perform for another 3. So, like most people, their first stunt job will be like to be bodyguard number 3 or attacker
Right.
number 3. You run in, you get punched in the face once, you hit the floor, and that's it.
Right.
That's your job, and then you might not work for another 4 months unless somebody meets you or gives you another chance. But in this case, what was going to happen, what did happen is I was on prep work. I did the whole thing. I met a whole bunch of stunt coordinators and other stunt performers who were like, "Who's this guy? And why the hell is he in this position?" And because that's exactly the question that comes up is like, why not? Like, I've been working for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. How is this guy in this position? It's not like this shouldn't be this way.
Right.
But I got an opportunity to prove myself to a lot of other people, and it worked out really well because I did a good job. So that opened a lot of doors, and that's how I got into it. And I became busy after Immortals. I became busy right away, and I stayed busy over the next years.
There you go. It's great because I mean, as you were saying earlier, you really idolized the action heroes. But from an outside perspective, people think, oh yeah, Stallone's doing everything, which I think people don't know. No, he actually has a team of Stallones doing everything.
Yeah, there's still, a lot of the original action stars, they did a lot, I have to say, they did like a lot of stuff, but obviously they had stunt people. They had stunt people behind them, and they had stunt support, let's call it that. So then, it's true, but in my case, exactly. I'm doing everything at the time just to get started. I'm doing everything the hero,
right?
And people don't realize it because you make it magic, and that's the idea when you're a stunt double or a stunt. Like, you're not a stunt person, but a stunt double especially. You become like this ninja assassin because you're there, you do the job. Nobody ever knows you were there, and that's the point, right? So, right. I mean, it's most people do have all that stunt support, and that was, to me, that was the first step. Became the first step to being in front of the camera, because I got to be in front of the camera. Now from there, I got to watch the guys being the lead, which is like the Henrys and the Channing Tatums and all those the Hugh Jackman and all those guys, and I observed it a lot because that's where I wanted to be. Mm-hmm. That was the position I wanted. And finally, a year in 2000, I started in 2010, and 2011. I had an opportunity. I was in the stunt with our stunt team on set stunts and in Montreal, and we're doing this martial arts film. And finally, we do a showcase for the producer. His name is Dimitri Logothetis, and Dimitri's the producer of Kickboxer.
Yeah.
And finally, we're doing the showcase, and I had these 2 crazy fight scenes to do, the opening fight and the end fight, and we did them all live, which is like 5-minute fights which have everything in them, from acrobatics to falls to weapons and everything. So at the end of the showcase, Dimitri came over and he introduced himself. He talked to me for about, 10 minutes or 5 minutes, 5 minutes. And at the end, he said, "Okay, great to meet you." But I'm the only one he actually came over to introduce himself to. And I noticed that, and I'm like, "Oh, cool." And he said, "You did a great job." And finally, the next day, I got a call from casting asking me to audition for the lead role, which was not cast yet.
Yeah.
And now I go from, doing a good job in this showcase to, okay, I want you to audition for the starring role of the movie. And by the way, I have like very little acting experience at this time because I've done like high school drama and some different workshops as a stuntman. We did acting workshops. So I've done a few, but that's it. That's my experience. I have no on-set like acting experience. So all of a sudden I'm like, all right, you have to audition for this lead role. And it's the opportunity that presents itself.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my God. So now it's going to happen. And finally, I prepared for 3 days. I went in audition, and the day after the audition, I got a call from Dimitri offering me the role. Nice. And offering me a chance to do more than one film. There was multiple films involved. And now that's how I got started. I mean, I call that being at the right place at the right time, the right skill, the right look, the right everything. And stars align, and I end up being there, and it worked out. And that was kind of how I got into it, but that didn't work out the first time. This movie, the financier pulled out, or had issues, problems, whatever. Something happens and pull the plug after 3 weeks, and there's no more movie.
Yeah.
So then, what do you do? So, but that told me that, okay, well, if you got there once, somebody noticed you once, they're going to notice you again. So you better get prepared now. So what I started doing as I continued my stunt career is I started doing a lot more acting workshops, and I started training the acting part, because I was green, I was a rookie, so I needed to be a bit better. I needed to be much better. Although I have to say that all these original action stars, like, apart from, let's say, Stallone, in that case, were not actors when they got started.
Right.
They were all physical specimens that in their own field, whether it was bodybuilding, martial arts, or sheer action, whatever it was, and they had a thing about them, and they went in there, and people loved them because of that physicality.
Right.
And they became actors as they went. Like Van Damme, don't tell me Van Damme was not an actor when he got into it at all. Like, he was like, hey, say this, Van Damme. Okay. And he says, okay, I feel good. And then that was it. Schwarzenegger and Conan. Come on,
right?
Like Schwarzenegger, like or before that, and Hercules. He was laughed at. Are you kidding me? They told him we would never amount to anything because of his accent. I've read his book. I mean, it's so interesting because all these guys at the beginning of their career, people laughed. They were laughing stocks, and they became the biggest action stars in the world. So that's action, for you, because people want to believe in the dude. That's how it starts. But obviously, you have to support that with everything else, because that'll only last so long. So I started doing a lot of acting workshops to get prepared for the next opportunity. And Dimitri had told me he had the rights to Kickboxer. So I had to prep for that when that was going to come. So we stayed in contact over 2-3 years. And I think it was 2 years later, 2.5 years later, he called me. And he's like, okay, Alain, you got to come and meet Ted Field, who's my partner in producing Kickboxer. And you have to do a showcase. So I came in prepared. I did a showcase. Ted, like, wow, he's very impressed. He's like, holy crap, well, that's what we're doing. And he says to Dimitri, well, can he act? And I'm like, okay, score, I've been working at this. So finally, he's like, okay, well, let's have him do some scenes. Let's have him do like 2-3 scenes to see him and to see what he does. So I went back home, got my coach, and I worked with a coach in Toronto, and I prepared for a few weeks. And then finally I shot these scenes and I sent them back. And these screen tests were successful, and I was in. That's how I got Kickboxer, and finally I was doing Kickboxer. And then we get to shoot Kickboxer. Not only shooting Kickboxer, which was one of my favorite movies, but then we shoot him with Batista and GSP.
Yeah.
And they start stacking this with all these people, and the icing on the cake is that Van Damme's going to come in, is going to be in the movie, and all of a sudden we shoot this, and this comes out, and finally it's real. When the day came, well, it was all real while we're doing it, but I mean, when it comes out and it's like it's out there and it's on it in Blu-ray and it's like in stores, and it just all is 100% real, and it's completed. So for me, I mean, that was the end goal, to get to do this, to actually be the star of the film, the action hero. That was the dream. But my process was like, it just happened to be from the stunt side, because I was a physical guy. So it's but here we are.
There we go. But was it intimidating taking on a role that Jean-Claude Van Damme once played?
Of course. I mean, it is in a way, because no matter what, because you're going to be compared.
Right.
To do a remake, and then now I've done a remake, so I know what that feels like. And it's not just like, okay, this is a brand new role and you get into it, you're fresh and you just get to be out there. No, it's you taking on this beast that somebody else got famous on. So then there's all these high expectations on your performance and all these comparisons. Right. So obviously that's intimidating. But for me, I mean, I thrive on challenges. So anytime I'm challenged, I feel that it pushes me to work hard and to be better. And you know what? In my mind, I'm like, you know what? This is for a brand new generation. I started asking people around that were younger than I was, from like the next generation, I guess. Do you know Van Damme? And a lot of people said no. And I'm like, oh, have you seen Kickboxer? No, nobody's seen Kickboxer. And I'm like, well, how have you not seen Kickboxer? You should have seen Kickboxer. This is weird. And no, so many people had not seen it if they're not martial artists, if they're not from that generation. I mean, they hadn't seen it. So for me, I started looking at it, you know what, it's all his fans and all the martial arts people who were influenced and that have watched Kickboxer. Yeah, they're going to have to compare, but what the hell? You know, they might compare it in a great way. There might be so many things that they're going to love. So as long as I don't try to replicate what Jean-Claude did at the time, and I don't try to imitate him as a person, I think I've got a great chance to set myself apart. And I'm willing to take that chance, obviously, to move forward. So it was intimidating, but at the same time, I used it to fuel and to push me to be even better.
And Jean-Claude didn't give you like, hey, right here, I would do a splits.
No.
You didn't give it nothing like that?
Not at all. Yeah, it's funny. Actually, not ever. I mean, he would never, like, he's never about that. He's always about, he does his thing and he's doing his performance. He'll suggest things more on the acting side, not the action side. He's not one to go in and, unless it's his own action stuff where he suggests and we work together. But I mean, when it's other people's stuff, he's not that involved, and he doesn't want to. I mean, the best advice he gave me, and I think that was the key from our discussions, was focus on the acting. Mm-hmm. You've got the action. Focus on the acting, and that's. I think that's from where he came from being able to kick and do the splits, and everybody's like, yeah, man, I'm kick, do the splits, and and then all of a sudden, okay, but now what happens when that's done?
Right.
What happens when people are over the splits, or if they ever do? I don't think they're over it,
No.
So, it's like, I think for him then that's what he saw when he, at the start of his career, was a lot of people then started wanting performance and out of you, because you're not always throwing a kick. There's a lot of times where you don't throw anything. You're just throwing words. So you got to be able to throw those words. And that was his advice, focus on the acting. And I think that was great advice.
Yeah, no, it definitely was. And I mean, it worked out for him just because JCVD is a phenomenal movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he doesn't throw a punch. Yeah, he's acting and being dramatic in that, and it's great.
Absolutely. I agree.
For the people at home who would like to keep in contact with you and just keep updated with what you do, where can they do that?
So I'm on Facebook. It's Alain Moussi online on Facebook. You can find me there on my page, and I got my Instagram, where I'm very active on Instagram and Facebook are my two big ones. Mm-hmm. I guess on Instagram it's Alain Moussi, my name ALAIN MOUSSI, and you can also find me on Twitter. I'm there as well under my name Alain Moussi. It's on Twitter, so it's my name everywhere. You know what? That's one of the reasons I really like my name. It's very unique, so I get to have all my own handles.
There we go. Awesome. Yeah, it makes it easier for searching, for sure.
Absolutely. And if you go on there in the next, especially now that the Blu-ray for Kickboxer Vengeance has been released, I'm setting up a whole bunch of contests coming up in the next month. It's all going to be on my social media. So for sure, make sure you check it out.
There we go. Well, I had a pleasure chatting with you. I feel like I can chat with you for a long time, but I do want you to enjoy your vacation.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much. I enjoyed chatting with you too. It was great. It was lots of fun.
Thank you. And you have a wonderful, try to have a wonderful day. All right.
Oh, absolutely. I will. I'm sure I'll have a great, it's beautiful out here. It's sunny. It's, you can't not have a good time out here. So I'll enjoy it. Thank you so much, Chris. Hopefully we'll talk to you again.
That sounds good. Have a good one.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.